You're a great patriot. You've served your country with distinction. How disappointed were you yesterday in the United Nations? And it appears now that the US and Israel are growing increasingly isolated. You saw that vote in the General Assembly, voting in favour of a Gaza ceasefire. The US and Israel are among the few votes against. And disgracefully, in my view, Australia put its hand up and joined in that vote and voted in favour. What did you make of all of that?
Yeah, we're certainly very disappointed, not surprised by it. We know where the UN is on a lot of things. We know there's a significant anti-Israel body in the UN, and frankly speaking, an undercurrent of anti-Americanism in the UN itself. Look, Hamas conducted this butchery, savage attack, and it's diabolical and sinister what they wanted because they focused on a civilian population in Israel. Never have done that before. Took 240 casualties wholesale. Never did that before. Why? They wanted to make certain that Israel would come into the Gaza Strip, would attack them. They held many, many people in place in an urban center where in most wars that take place in urban centers, by the time the sound of the artillery guns or airstrikes get close, the people do what? They flee. World War II to the present, that's the pattern of behavior. But here in Gaza, they hold that population in place, and they are the government who is supposed to protect their own people. This is diabolical on their part. So what happens is we get disproportionate amount of civilian casualties that we should not have because those people are not permitted to leave. That is very frustrating to everybody. It's frustrating to Israeli soldiers who have to deal with this, to the Israeli military, and certainly it's horrific in what is happening to the innocent souls there who are suffering as a result of it. Hamas has the accountability and responsibility for doing this, not the Israelis.
As a military strategist, General, a ceasefire is it not going to allow Hamas to regroup, perhaps restock with weaponry? And it would be crazy of Israel to agree to do that without all of the hostages back, wouldn't it?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. And what they're really talking about is a permanent ceasefire. Look at the Israelis want to dismantle Hamas as a military and terrorist organization, and it's formidable. We're talking about 30,000 people under arms here, 5 brigades, 25 battalions as part of those brigades. 6,000 or 7,000 have been eliminated, but there's still a lot of work to be done to achieve that end. I mean, what the Israelis are trying to say is that, look if we stop prematurely here, they've already said what they're going to do. Their political leadership in Qatar made the statement right on national television, international television, excuse me, saying that we fully intend to attack again and again and again until we destroy the state of Israel. What they mean by that is inflict so many casualties in Israel that people don't want to stay there anymore. That's what their intent is. A ceasefire caters to that. And they have the hostages, Steve, so they can get at least temporary ceasefires by giving hostages back. And we've seen that happen about 10 days ago. Permanent ceasefire keeps Hamas and the regime in power. And what are we going to see? More attacks in the future, more butchery, more savagery. Israel is not going to agree to that.
Jack, what's your fear of this spreading outside of Gaza and the conflict that's currently underway? And of course, I mean into places like Lebanon and, God forbid, Iran.
Yeah, well, I think what we have seen so far from the Hezbollah, they have been conducting measured, limited attacks, although increasing, into northern Israel. Artillery weapons, limited rocket attacks, mortars, and the like. What we have not seen, and they have not taken this action, is unleashing the 130,000 sophisticated rockets and missiles that they have that can reach any town or city in Israel. Their attacks so far have just been limited to the northern border area of Israel. That would be the expansion of the war. If that took place, Israel would conduct massive air attacks on the Hezbollah in Lebanon. If they were not able to achieve the objective of shutting it down, and the casualties were still rising in the towns and cities in Israel because the Hezbollah is overwhelming their air defense systems, they would likely ask the United States for assistance in terms of using United States air power. For our audience to understand, Israel from 1948 to the present has never asked anybody to assist them in fighting a war against their adversaries. That would be unprecedented, but the United States would likely agree to that request, obviously, if the Israelis ask for it. In the future, as of right now, I don't see that happening. But as Hamas gets closer to being destroyed, the fact is Iran may tell the Hezbollah, go ahead and expand the war and bring it to the better part of Israel. That remains to be seen, but that certainly is a possibility.